a martini per 1,000 feet. I can only take like 2 or 3 martinis, and I'm not climbing the hill nearby, not let alone Everest. So like, how is that a recurring? Like you're going to sleep, you're getting some rest, you wake up, you just feel off. You just because of is it oxygen deprivation? What's is it really drunk feeling? How like explain
Yeah.
describe that a little bit more. What's that like, and what is the intoxication equivalent? Like where are you? Is it motion? Eh, is it are you dizzy? What do you
That's
feel like?
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good question. So once you get up above 26,000 feet, which is, or 8,000 meters, they call that the death zone on Everest. So when you get above 26,000 feet, and Everest is 29,032 feet or 8,849 meters, you have a maximum of 1 to 2 days that you can live up there. No matter who you are, you're going to die. So you're racing against time, essentially, trying to get up to the summit and back down and out of the death zone before essentially your numbers pulled with regards to how you react to that extremely hypoxic environment. And when you get up in that altitude, it's a mix between dizziness, motion sickness, and like having 3 or 4 shots in a row kind of feeling when it then hits you 45 minutes later. You just Everything feels light, everything is tough, meaning to breathe, to walk, to think. Everything is just a struggle. So it's kind of a mix between getting out of your bed too fast and having that weird morning sickness moment sometimes that you get for 20 seconds, with the blood rushing to your
Hmm.
head, or a mix between, let's say, motion sickness on a boat or an airplane or a roller coaster with a little bit of that martini effect, like I said, where if you just slam 4 shots in a row and then all of a sudden 45 minutes later you get out of your bar stool to walk to the bathroom and you're like, oh, okay, I feel that. So it's really a combination of those three, and it is because of hypoxia. It can also be induced by just working so hard because, again, your heart is pumping so hard. In order to make it to the summit of Everest, one of the things that I tell people, with regards to when I do speaking engagements about, life lessons, motivation, and stuff, is that you have to be able to go 20% harder than anything you've ever done in your life in order to make it to the summit and back. However, that extra 20% that you didn't know you had in you is also maybe the difference between life and death, where you become 341 instead of just being 340 and coming back down. And so the margins are as thin as a strand of hair about whether or not you make it up and back down, or whether or not you never make it back down, or whether or not you ever make it to the top or not, and so on. And so that is because, again, complete exhaustion and that drunk feeling that you get, where it's just wobbly and everything is just tough, And it's one of those things you don't know until you go, because you can't train for it. As well as trained as I was, and as formally trained and physically prepared and all that stuff, you can't take your VO2 max with you. So all that training you do in order to get your lung capacity up, to get your oxygen saturation levels up, and so on before you go, you can't take that to altitude. So altitude is the great equalizer. So you don't know until you go. And so the only way to really kind of maximize that is choose your parents wisely.